This video and this little post that I'm going to be putting on is especially for Elizabeth.
Elizabeth who?
Elizabeth, and now I don't know how to pronounce it.
Where's she from?
From up in Elgin.
Ah, well, that's fair enough. Elizabeth from Elgin.
Elizabeth and Elgin.
Outside Elgin.
Outside Elgin, because Elizabeth was asking, after I'd made the mincemeat, after I'd done the video of making the mincemeat, would I be doing a video on actually making the pastry to make the mince pies? So, especially for Elizabeth, this is what I'm doing today. So I thought I'd show you my mincemeat first.
I thought you were going to do some maracas as well.
No. This is the mincemeat that I was making a couple of weeks ago. I don't think that's quite ready yet, but it'd be okay to use. This is a jar that I have left from last year. Can you see the difference? In time, it just kind of matures nicely. That'd be okay to use, but that'll be nicer to use. And I'll keep that for a little later. Okay, and I just wanted to show you these. When you're making your mince pies, you can make them small, deep, large. I kind of like mine to be about that size and not too deep, because I just want that nice
Mince pie tray.
A mince pie tray, yeah.
Right, okay.
Not too deep, because I don't want loads of pastry. I want a nice equal balance of pastry and mincemeat.
So, is that the casings for them, so that would show them the depth that you want?
Yes, yep. These are like a little miracle. Yeah. When you're making mince pies, very often the mincemeat seeps out and it sticks, and they all stick to the base. And if your pastry's nice and crumbly, they stick, and then you get casualties as you try to take them out of the tin and everything. These are brilliant because you can put your pastry straight into there.
So get your tray with one of them. If you're going to buy a tray, take one of them with you.
No, they're all kind of about the same size.
Are they? Right.
Yeah. And you just pop these in, and you don't need to grease these, and you don't need to do anything with them. And that's what we're going to make our mince pies in later on. You don't have to have those though, so if you've not got them, don't worry about it, and you can just make sure that you will grease your tins when you're doing it, but we'll come on to that later on. What we're going to do in this first section is we're actually going to make the gluten and dairy free pastry. And because in my book, my thing is not just for beginners, but especially for beginners. Sometimes people have not done things before. For this recipe, we're only using the egg yolks. So, and I need 2. So you can see I've actually separated one already.
Okay.
And what I thought, risky thing showing it on video because it always goes wrong, how to separate an egg. This is how I do it. Lots of people have different ways. So just crack the egg, and make sure you put it into the right one, and just ease it open, and you're just moving it from side to side, and you're letting the white come out, but just keeping hold of the yolk. And this is what you'd do if you were making meringues.
So you were right with meringue.
Yeah. And there we go, in there I've just got the yolk. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is just wash my hands, raw eggs and all that.
Oh well, we might as well watch you washing your hands.
But just to make sure that I do it properly. Yeah. Right. So I don't need the egg whites.
So we don't need the egg whites?
Not for this. If I wasn't making gluten-free pastry, I'd use the egg whites to coat the top of the pastry. But the gluten-free pastry doesn't brown very well, so I always use an extra egg.
Oh, so that's why you do it. You get 2 eggs. So right,
yes.
Okay. So explain something else.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make the pastry. And in here we have 300 grams of fine polenta, cornmeal, yeah. and we have 300 grams of rice flour. And I have a quarter of a teaspoon of mixed spice.
So getting back to your cornflour, so if you get the right one, there's nothing saying may contain
Cornmeal.
cornmeal, sorry.
Cornmeal. Yes, yeah, so you just make sure, some of them say may contain gluten, but the one I use doesn't. And I'm just using a knife, just mixing all that in, just getting it all mixed together nicely. Okay, and as it's dairy free, I'm using stock.
So I noticed there that your stock is can you not just throw a block of stock in there? Or what
No,
do you do?
I'd chop it up into nice cubes. Actually, using stock for pastry is far easier than using butter.
Can you not melt it? Or...
No, you just want it, and then all we're going to do is we're just going to rub it together. You could do this in your freestanding mixer, but sometimes, you know what? Sometimes it's just nice to make pastry by hand. And using stock is so much easier than butter because it just rubs in. And all I'm doing is kind of just rubbing it all together. It's quite satisfying, is this, you know, Mr. Cameraman? You like making pastry, don't you?
I'm just asking the questions, Deborah. So why are you doing it? Why do you rub it in? What happens?
It's what I'm going to end up with is something that looks, I always say it a little bit like breadcrumbs. I always say as long as there's no big lumps of stock or butter. I mean, if you weren't bothered about yours being dairy free, you could use butter, but I wouldn't mean to be dairy free. Well, you can't see what I can see. Can Mr. Cameraman just show that? That's little Beatrix. Beatrix knows when I'm baking, she's not allowed in the kitchen. And she's sitting there looking all sad.
She's got her old collar on. Yeah.
She knows when I've got my whites on, she's not allowed in the kitchen. Yeah. We don't want dog hairs in the mince pies. Yeah. Can you see this now, Mr. Cameraman? So it's all just, we've not got any big lumps. Yep. Okay, so once you get
the back, is that lumpy or is that alright?
Are you judging my pastry making skills here?
Well,
there we go.
just for people that's watching, it's just what's...
No, so all the big lumps have gone. Okay. And because gluten-free pastry doesn't brown as much as the wheat-based one, actually using the polenta in it gives it this nice yellowy colour as well. Okay, so I have 150 grams of caster sugar. And it just goes in there.
And it goes.
And you have to imagine that this is the zest of 2 oranges. In my case, it's the zest of 2 lemons because I didn't have any oranges today. But in that recipe, in my book, just a little plug there, it's the zest of 2 oranges, but lemons will work just as well. So you see, as soon as you start adding oranges and lemons to things, the smell is just lovely.
Unless you get COVID.
Have you got COVID?
Oh, if you get COVID, you'll not smell it.
Oh, that's true. So the egg yolks,
So you don't have to. You didn't beat them lightly, did you? No.
No. Just do that. And then just use your knife just to mix that in. And then what we're going to do is just add. So
it's just a knife you've got there?
Yeah, just a knife.
Just a palette knife.
Do it with your hands, yeah. We're going to add water. Normally I'd just splosh it in, but if you just add it a tablespoon at a time, and that's just plain cold water.
Cold or tepid water?
Cold. Cold works better. Cold works better.
Cold water works better.
In fact, everything works better when you're making pastry. Cold hands, cold stalks. I've only just taken that stalk out of the fridge as well.
Oh, well.
Use your butter straight from the fridge.
That'll be alright, you'll be alright then with your cold tart.
Gives you my love, isn't it? Yeah. The only thing I don't use straight from the fridge is the eggs. So I'm just adding it a tablespoon at a time so you can see me doing it. You do get so that once you've made your pastry, I'm going to add 2 in there. Once you've made it a few times, you kind of know how much to add in. And you can start to see it coming together now. Add another couple in there. Beatrix is talking to us, she's saying, you know.
So what kind of consistency are we looking for?
We're looking for it to all start to come together.
What do you mean by come together?
You'll see. Patience. Patience. You can start to see it. And then once you get to a certain point, add another couple in there. Once I get to that point, I then sort of discard the knife and start to use my hands, because you can you get a feel of, you can see it starting to
bind, you mean? Start to bind together.
Bind, yep. So there's still not quite enough there.
So we're looking for a very light kind of dough. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, it's going to come together as a dough, and it does. You just take your time with it. Baking's about just having patience, and if you haven't got time to make pastry, don't make your pastry. Buy your pastry. No shame in that. If you haven't got time to make your mince pies, don't make them. Buy them. You know, baking's about doing things.
Oh, well, if you want gluten-free, decent gluten-free mince pies, surely you've got to make them.
I don't know. You can get some fairly decent ones now, can't you? Not the ones that we tried the other day.
Well, good ones.
Quality assurance, of course.
Good ones and bad ones.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tip this out now, because it's sometimes easier then to do this on a table. And you're just going to bring it all together.
All together now.
All together now.
So you're doing it just like bread?
Yeah, just like, you're just making it as normal pastry. It just happens to be.
Yeah, but I'm just
yeah.
asking for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't they?
Yeah. And it comes together. It does have a slightly different feel to non-gluten-free pastry. But it's okay. So you could use that straight away. What I like to do is I like to put that in the fridge for half an hour.
Do you wrap it in cling film or?
Oh yeah, and I just cut it in half because it actually makes that easy just for rolling out later on. So, 1 second.